Shalom Aleichem, dear brothers and sisters. I was asked to do a video on the difference between Jewish theology and Christian theology. And even though there are many videos like that, and there's a big Rabbi Tuvia Singer, who I respect a lot, and I'm sure he's gonna do he does do and did do before a lot better job than I can in explaining the main difference between Christianity and Judaism and why we don't believe in the theology of Christianity. But in any case, since I was asked to do it, I'm gonna provide my opinion in this, and hopefully I'll try to keep it brief. And the main issue that we have with accepting Jesus is really not the issue with Messiah or not Messiah. A lot of people think that the difference between Jews and Christians is that Christians accept Jesus as the Messiah and Jews do not. But in reality, this is not the main issue. Accepting the Messiah or not accepting the Messiah, this is not even one of the commandments in the Torah. As Jews, we follow the Torah, the 5 books, and all the commandments that are in the Torah. There isn't one commandment in the Torah that tells us accept Messiah when he comes. There's no such commandment. It tells us to keep kosher. It tells us to keep Sabbath, not work on Sabbath. It tells us to not mix wool and linen in our clothing. It tells us a lot of laws, 613 laws, but never, there's not one law that says when Messiah comes, you have to accept him. There's no such thing. There is a law accepting a prophet. There's a test that the Torah tells us, and if the prophet passes that test, we have to accept him. But as far as accepting who the Messiah is or not, there's no such law in the Torah itself. Now, what's a Messiah? Messiah is just that later prophets, after the Torah was given, prophets predicted that eventually there's going to be a king who's going to reestablish the kingdom of Israel. And that king is the Messiah, meaning chosen. He's going to be chosen by God to do that. The word Mashiach means anointed, because back in the days, the kings used to be anointed by a prophet with oil, with olive oil poured on their head. And this is what's called anointed. So the main issue is not really whether Jesus is the Messiah or not. This is not our main concern as Jews. The main problem we have with the theology of Christianity is the following. There are two problems. One problem is that we cannot accept God coming down in a physical form. Because all throughout the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, all throughout the Torah, we constantly hear that there's no image when it comes to God. In fact, there's a commandment that says, you shall not make any image, because you did not see any image of God at Sinai. God is not physical. There's no physicality. In fact, one of the ancient Roman historians, I think there are 2 ancient Roman historians that wrote about Jews a little bit. So there was a Tacitus, and then there was another historian, Cassius Dio. I don't remember which one, but I remember reading where he was describing the religion of Jews, and back in those days, this was kind of weird that Jews worship a totally abstract God. And one of the things he says is that when the Romans came into the temple, they saw that there is no images. There's no image of, no representation of the God of Israel. And this was surprising. So this has always been the Jewish stance, that when it comes to God, he's not physical. He's beyond our comprehension. He's not physical. And besides him being one, this is another thing. Okay, so this is the main issue. The second main issue is abrogating the commandments. The Messiah that we believe in, that's going to come and restore the Israel, that Messiah has no right to cancel God's commandments. Because the Messiah is the servant of God, just like the rest of the people are. And he's he's going to be a righteous person, he's going to have special maybe capabilities as a leader, but he as a person has no right to cancel and say from now on you don't have to keep the laws of the Torah. This is the second issue. So the two main issues are not really who the Messiah is, but what can a Messiah do, what's his authority, and what is a Messiah. Messiah is not a God according to the Jewish theology, and Messiah, whoever he is, cannot cancel the laws of the Torah. Now, as far as monotheism goes, with Christianity, even though they believe in Trinity, but I wouldn't say that this Trinity is complete polytheism, meaning they believe in, idol worshipping, multiple gods. I'm not sure about all the sects of Christianity, but certain Christians I heard that basically what they say is that, there's one God. They're not going to say that there are three gods. They're not going to use those terms. They're going to say there's one God with, three persons, I think that's what they say, or three manifestations. Whatever that means, it's kind of hard to comprehend, whatever they're trying to say, but I don't think it's very clear to just blatantly say that Christianity is polytheism, just like Romans were or the Greeks were. No. I think there's a huge difference. No matter what, the Christians did take a lot of theology from Judaism, but no, not everything. Some things I think got changed. Now, with all that said, I want to make a real important point that in the recent decades, Christians have been I would say the biggest supporters of the Jewish people when it comes to the state of Israel, and in general, the Christians, not all maybe the denominations, but certain denominations of Christians have been really supportive of the Jewish people, and I believe that God is going to reward them for this. And in fact, because the Torah says, God promised to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Yaakov, and God said that blessed is going to be he who blesses you, and he who curses you is cursed. So in my humble opinion, I think that Christians, at least recently, in the last few decades, due to their support for the Jewish people, I think God is going to bless them. And I personally think that, the good Christians eventually are going to come to realize that there is one God, meaning non-physical, non-divisible God, and I see actually in the recent years I see more and more Christians are actually coming, I think, closer to Judaism. In fact, I read an article that a lot of Latin Americans are coming closer to Judaism, and some of them are trying to convert. Some of them are what's called becoming Bnei Noach, which means they stay as Gentiles, but they keep the 7 laws that God gave to Noach, because according to the Jewish belief, this is the ideal state for the non-Jews, to follow the 7 laws. God never told the non-Jews to follow the 613 commandments that God told us at Sinai. However, since all the non-Jews, all the humanity for that matter, are descendants from Noah, therefore they are still obligated to observe the 7 laws that God gave to Noah after he came out of the ark. So a lot of Christians have been coming closer to Judaism. In fact, even though there have been missionaries also among Christians that tried to pull Jews away from Judaism, which obviously I'm really against, but what ended up happening is actually something interesting. In about the 70s, I heard that the Christians decided that this was the best method to bring Jews into Christianity, was to create something called Messianic Judaism. Meaning, they called, instead of the priests, they called them rabbis, instead of the churches, they called them synagogues, and they were hoping that Jews are going to be kind of, feel more at home when they come to these places and eventually begin to, follow the Christianity. But what ended up happening I think is the opposite. A lot of Christians become interested. Oh, what is this Messianic Judaism? You can still believe in Jesus and follow the commandments, and they kind of start going to these synagogues. But then eventually, once they start learning about the commandments and the Torah, and the oral Torah, what we have, the Talmud, they get more involved and they understand Judaism, better. Then they come to Judaism out of Christianity. So this is, I think I personally have not met a Jew that has gone to Christianity through this Messianic movement. Obviously, there probably are some, but I never met any. But I met Christians that came to Judaism through Messianic Judaism, to real Judaism, I mean. So, so I hope this video explains a little bit of the position of the Jews when it comes to the theology of Christianity and what the main differences are. Thank you for watching.